Welcome to the Encourager Podcast with me, Rebekah Scott. I believe that if you desire an active, impactful role in your children's lives while simultaneously wanting to provide an income for your family, then being a mompreneur is exactly what you need to work at home. The Encourager Podcast is my way of inspiring and motivating you with insightful knowledge, tips, and advice from myself and other successful working women who want to put their families first. Grab a pen or get your brain ready to take notes for this week's powerful episode. Hello, Encouragers. This episode is titled Just Act, because there are so many things that we want to try or that we may want to attempt or are trying at, but we are not succeeding at because we are not acting. And usually that is because we have some fear about it and we haven't played out the worst case scenario in our brains, or we're even afraid to play out the worst case scenario. But let's just act. I'm going to give you 7 action steps in order to do just that. Let's get going. So first, action will create momentum. And we all remember that momentum, once we have it, it is awesome. It even has its own slang, they call it the mo. But once you get the ball rolling, even if it's rolling in the wrong direction or a little kitty corner or whatever it might be, at least it is moving. I'm not going to try and give you a physics lesson here because I'm a creative person, so this could go sour. But once a ball is in motion, it stays in motion, that sort of thing. Same thing. So let's do this. Let's take action. So write your challenge or your business idea down, or what is this thing that you need to act upon that you have been putting off for months, weeks, years. What is it? Write it down and let's just act on it, okay? And how we're going to do that is we're going to break it into steps that we can take. So number 1 is research. Research your action. So what is out there? Let's say you're starting an Etsy shop and you're like, gosh, I wonder if I could create Christmas trees using burlap. We'll just say that. And you need to find out what else everyone else is doing. Maybe someone's doing something very similar and you want to, of course, do something different and original. Or just research what is out there for your idea. Find out what people are doing with it, how they're doing their revenue streams to make money on this business. Find out if there's anyone else in your local area that's doing your action step. Find out if the university knows anything about it, but do some research. Find out if you're the only one who has thought of this or if others are doing it and how you would like to do it differently, because we all want to be different. And sometimes you can't always be original, but for sure be honest to yourself and be different from others. So do your research. Find out. That could be your first action step. Number 2, educate. Okay, so your first action, you're going to research it. Number 2, you're going to get educated on your project or your business. Learn everything you possibly can. That means contacting your university, seeing if they have degrees in it, seeing if they have professors that will talk to you about it. Contact your small business bureau, see if someone there can sit down and talk to you about your idea. I cannot stress enough right now in this moment how important the small business bureau is. Our local, I don't know if they call it chapter or whatever, but ours here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota is amazing. And the South Dakota website is just so good. So contact your small business bureau after you have done your research and ask them to help you get educated on what it is that you want to do. Is there a class that you could take? Is there a small group or a mastermind that you could join to help you with educating yourself on your new business adventure? Watch YouTube videos. Just get educated. Number 3, gather the supplies that you will need or the space that you will need. It's really important to account for the amount of space your business or your creative idea will take, because don't underestimate that if you do not create a space for it, whether in your time schedule, but an actual physical space for your new business venture, how difficult it will be to keep that ball rolling, okay? So do you need to make a couple prototypes, back to the supplies, gathering your supplies. Do you need to make a couple prototypes so that you can show people, this is what I'm thinking about doing? Where do you get those supplies? Gather all those up and start. Just act upon it and make a space in your home where you can start this action, okay? And consider that space sacred, and this is for my new business, because you are acting upon getting this started. Step number 4 for the action steps is, do you need some startup funds? Do you need to talk to your spouse about putting away $500, $100, $5,000? How much can you estimate that you will need to put away to start this? Now, this is not supposed to make you stop because all of a sudden you're considering the money and going, I don't have that. There's no way I can start this. I challenge you to break down your business one more time and decide how much of it you can do for free before you need to approach the money side of things. We've already listed 3 steps before you even need to consider the money part. You need to do your research, you need to get educated, and you need to gather supplies and space. Most of those are free, okay? So you can still act on this plan. Then start considering the money and breaking down where that money could come from, or how you could attain that money, or how much more you can do without spending a lot of money. Step number 5, time allowance. This is important that you allow for time for your new business adventure. So is that for you? Does that mean just 1 or 2 times a week you're going to be doing this part-time while you raise some money to start your startup funds? Or are you going to just tackle this head on and you're going to do, 40 hours a week would be great. But if you're starting this on the side, aim for 10 hours a week or 1 hour a day where you're going to sit down and you're going to ponder on this business idea and take an action step for 1 hour a day. For me, when I started this podcast on the side of my business, Rebekah Scott Designs, where I sew and design purses and accessories for 12 years now, I thought, oh my goodness, where am I going to fit the podcast? But I'm really passionate about sharing this. How can I do this? So I said, okay, on Fridays, I'm going to devote 1 hour a week. I only did 1 hour a week for the podcast on Fridays when I first started, but I started. Okay, what does that mean for you? What kind of time can you allow for this new adventure? Number 6, support. This is really important. You need to go out and seek people who will support your new adventure. Maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your best friend, maybe it's someone in the mastermind group, maybe it's a professor, maybe it's a teacher that you had in high school. Who is going to support you in your new business adventure, and then thereby also holding you accountable? Maybe your brother-in-law is a really good entrepreneur and thinks a lot like you and would love to be behind you and supporting you. But go out and find somebody who will support you, hold you accountable. That might also be a mastermind group. And then another side note is make sure that the people that you find to support you are positive action takers themselves. If it is somebody who's going to give you advice that says, I don't really think you should start that, it seems like it's kind of a volatile market or something, push them away. That is not who you want backing you up. You want somebody who's encouraging. Somebody that says, hey, that's a great idea. I'm so proud of you. You can do this. And then they call and say, hey, how is that project going? Surround yourself with them, not the people who mean well, but end up discouraging you. Do not have them backing you up, okay? And the 7th action step is create a deadline. Because it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, someday I'm going to start a podcast, or someday I'm going to do coaching, or someday I'm going to be an organizer. When is that someday? Because you're running out of somedays. I'm here to encourage you. You set a deadline. Say in 6 months' time, I'm going to have the startup funds and my space created. In 12 months' time, I'm going to have 6 clients. What is your deadline? Create 1 deadline, then create 2 deadlines, then create 3 deadlines after you've accomplished the first one. They are kind of goals. But deadline means like, if anything else happens, I'm going to die if I don't meet this deadline. That's how serious you have to treat it. So create a deadline, and we know deadlines can be pushed back, but if you're pushing and pushing and pushing, you are creating action and you're creating momentum. So create that deadline. Okay, so those are the 7 action steps. First, you need to research what's out there. Number 2, you need to educate yourself. Make some phone calls. Do some emailing. What do you need to do to get educated on your new adventure? Number 3, you need to gather supplies and a space. Create a space around this idea and gather what supplies you might need to start a few prototypes. Number 4, startup funds. Do you need to save up $500, $5,000? You need to talk with your spouse. You need to talk with those in your loved ones. What do you need to have for startup funds? Take action on that. Step number 5, time allowance. Allow time for it. How much time are you going to spend during the week? And then act on it. Number 6, support. Find those people who will encourage you, who are positive, who will motivate you, who will hold you accountable. Find support partners. And action step number 7 is create a deadline. How are you going to meet that goal, and what is that date going to be? Now, we have hopefully created a little momentum for you. You're thinking like a business owner. You're thinking how you're going to accomplish these 7 action steps and just get the ball rolling. And all of a sudden, the fear sets in. Now, what I always do when I get fearful is I play out worst case scenario. Okay, what's the worst case scenario? I create this bag. I make 100 of them. Nobody likes them. And I can't sell all but 20 of them. All right? Then I'm sitting on 80 bags. That's the worst case scenario. I'd be sitting on 80 bags with a lot of money attached. How could I move those? I could sell them on an Etsy sale. I could give them to events to hopefully raise money, because I'm sure what I created was not complete bunk, because I don't create like that, and I'm sure you don't either. There's always ways to move inventory or move your idea, but play out the worst case scenario. So I'm going to give a real worst case scenario that happened to me so that you can kind of relate. I have about 5 different ways that I channel revenue, or for revenue funnels for my business, okay? And I am a federally trademarked direct sales company. So direct sales means I come straight to you to make the sale. Similar to Mary Kay, Tupperware, Jamberry, that kind of thing. I am the same thing that I have created myself. So I was thinking, well, I need a catalog. All these companies have catalogs. And my sales reps were like, oh my gosh, if you had a catalog, that would be great. I'm like, all right, I'm going to take action. Now for me, I'm obviously a risk taker. It is easy for me to take action. And one of my strengths is action. I could take things and run with it. In fact, my family knows not to mention the idea to me first, because I will hold them accountable to a deadline and making them happen. So they know that they've got to think it through before they come to me, because I'll be on them all the time. So with the catalog, what I ended up doing was it was going to cost me $6,000, which I had planned on. Now, I didn't initially save up the $6,000. I was going to pay as I went, hoping that the sales would help cover the catalog cost. So I got the catalog made, but I only sold about $1,500 from this catalog. Okay? Truth. But I took action, and I learned a load from this catalog. And what I really mean is I spent $6,000 on that catalog, but what I learned from it, actually, I was paid probably around $10,000. And here's why. So I only made $1,500 on the catalog, and there was a lot of different things that happened and why I didn't sell it that much. I didn't get to my sales reps and educate my sales reps enough on how to use the catalog and how to book shows off of it. I didn't make them hit the ground running and get to the offices to get the catalog and start booking these trunk shows. It's not necessarily one of my strengths. I didn't like the cover of the catalog, and I should have spoke up, but it was already, the ball was rolling on that, and I didn't know how to speak up. So I will know from now on to be really clear about what my vision is, and it's okay to say you don't like something. So I did learn that as well. And how I ended up making the $10,000 from that mistake, from that worst case scenario, is it drove me to the point where I was like, how come this catalog didn't work? And I had to sit down and think about how I was going to make up this $6,000. And what it dawned on me is people kept saying, well, I want to be able to design my own. And my website was set up like that, but not ideal. And what came out of it is we decided, instead of making more catalogs that I would like the cover better for and educate my sales reps on, and going that route and trying to produce another catalog, it dawned on me that the route that we need to go is the customized website. And so I spent my money on a very expensive, beautiful customized website. I hope that you have seen it, shoprsd.com, and that has just soared. That website was a perfect example of taking action, even if the ball was rolling in the wrong direction with the catalog, going down $6,000 of not really nothing, but education, we'll put it that way. and then rolling that ball back thinking, okay, the catalog did not work. Should I make another catalog? I want to do something custom, and then eventually rolling into the website. There was a series of steps, obviously, in between there that made me go from catalog sales to a brand new website. But the ball was moving. I was taking action, and not just frivolous action where I wasn't thinking about what I was doing. Obviously, with the catalog, I took some missteps. But I educated myself on what are my customers asking for? What can I deliver for them? What are they asking for that I am not delivering on because of fear or because I'm not taking the right action? So I educated myself. I did research on customized websites. I gathered the supplies. I gathered the people. I gathered the space that I would need for a brand new website. I thought about how much money I would need to start this website. I allowed time to devote each week to editing the website, visiting with the website designer and my staff about how I want it to be. And then I also got support on it. Who else has these custom websites? I reached out to them. Do you see that this is going right? I constantly reached out to my accountability partners in my mastermind group about when I wanted the website to launch, because I had a baby due, so that's always a good deadline as well. So I took the action steps in creating my website after making my huge mistake, my $6,000 mistake on the catalog. Okay, so I hope this example helps you play out the worst case scenario in your head if you take this business adventure on, and then taking the 7 action steps to starting it. You can do this. And one more thing, I'm just going to tell you the 7 action steps, just so we're on the same page and you're like, Becca, I've heard it 100 times. I'm going to do it one more time because this is creating action and this is creating momentum. Number 1, do your research. Number 2, educate yourself. Number 3, gather your supplies and your space. Number 4, think about the startup funds. Number 5, allow time. What kind of time allowance do you need? Number 6, support. And number 7, deadline. You can do this. Here we go, encouragers. Until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you have not done so, please subscribe to the show so that the latest episode will always be conveniently available on your device. You can also find the show notes on my website at shoprsd.com. That's shop with R as in Rebekah, S as in Scott, and D as in designs.com. The Encourager podcast tab is at the bottom of my website, which holds some great resources, like my recommended book page, how to rate and review my podcast, and reflection guides that correspond with each episode. Do your homework. Each review and rating is so valuable to us. I sincerely hope you feel encouraged and empowered to tackle anything that comes your way this week. Remember to be grateful, humble, and kind, then joy will come ushering in. Until next time on The Encourager.